I used to think marriage meant no secrets. That changed the day I opened my husband's email by accident. The subject line was simple: account statement confidential. Inside was a PDF from a bank I'd never heard of, showing a balance so huge my breath caught in my throat. $4.8 million. We live comfortably, sure. But this was impossible. My husband, David, is a mechanical engineer. We've budgeted every vacation, every home improvement, every grocery bill. And unless the salary in his HR file is a lie, there is no way he could have earned this much. Not legally. At first, I told myself it had to be a mistake, maybe the wrong David Miller. But the account number, the birth date, it was him. That's when the details began to unravel. Late nights working at the office, cash purchases he never explained, the locked drawer in his study that I'd never questioned until now. And then, I noticed the emails had been deleted from his inbox just minutes after I'd seen them. Someone knew I was looking. I thought I could talk to him, clear things up. But before I could even ask, a stranger approached me in the grocery store and whispered 6 words that froze me in place. "You're in danger. Don't trust him." That's when I realized finding the account was only the beginning. I need to start with this: I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. People always assume that when a wife finds something suspicious, she was digging for dirt, that she went looking because she already knew something was wrong. But that wasn't me. I was going about my day, living in the comfortable rhythm I thought was my marriage, when the universe shoved the truth in my face. It was a Tuesday, one of those dim, rainy ones where the sky feels like a ceiling pressing down. David had left early for what he called a critical meeting downtown, kissing me goodbye with his usual rushed peck, the smell of his cologne lingering in the doorway long after he'd gone. I remember thinking he looked tired, maybe even a little distracted, but I chalked it up to work stress. I was working from home that day, shuffling between my laptop and the kitchen coffee pot. Around noon, I logged into our shared email account to pull up a file from the printer software, something I'd done hundreds of times without a second thought. That's when I saw it, an unread message sitting right at the top of the inbox. The subject line was short, clinical, account statement confidential. There was no spammy capitalization, no fake lottery nonsense. Just those 3 words. I hesitated, my cursor hovering. If I'm being honest, it was confidential that hooked me, bold, plain, and almost daring me to click. And I did. The email opened to reveal a clean, crisp PDF attachment. I clicked that too. What filled my screen didn't look like anything I recognized. The letterhead read Riverside Private Banking. I had never heard of it. The font was elegant, the logo embossed into the digital letterhead like a seal of power. I scrolled past the opening greeting, my eyes automatically scanning for the numbers, and then I saw it, in bold at the bottom right corner. Balance: $4,812,356.47. I blinked, stared, blinked again. My mind scrambled for explanations. Maybe it was a decimal error. Maybe it was a test account. Maybe, but no, the transactions above it were too precise, each one with a date and an amount, some in the tens of thousands, others in neat, repeating figures like scheduled transfers. My pulse spiked. David and I live well, yes. He's a mechanical engineer at a reputable firm. We take the occasional vacation, go out to nice dinners every so often. But we have bills, a mortgage, retirement savings we contribute to slowly, deliberately. We've had conversations about whether we can afford a kitchen remodel or if we should wait another year. And no matter how I twisted it in my head, there was no possible way David could have legally made nearly $5 million without me knowing. Not unless he'd been living an entirely separate financial life behind my back. My eyes caught on the small details: the account number, the name, David Miller, and below it, his date of birth. Exactly correct. This wasn't a coincidence. This was my husband's account. I felt a strange, hollow chill in my stomach, not panic. Not yet. But the cold weight of a truth I couldn't unsee. That's when my phone pinged on the counter. I grabbed it automatically. A notification from our shared Google Calendar popped up. Dinner with Mom, 7:00 p.m. I frowned. We did not have dinner with my mother tonight. In fact, David had told me just this morning he'd be working late. Maybe past 10. My eyes darted back to the computer screen. I checked the timestamp on the email. 12:07 p.m. It had been sent just 8 minutes ago. Something in my chest tightened, a horrible, uncanny feeling like someone had timed this perfectly. I clicked back to the inbox and froze. The email was gone. I checked the trash folder. Empty. Checked the archive. Nothing. It was as if the message had never existed at all. My palms were suddenly damp against the keyboard. If I had opened that email just a minute later, I might never have seen it. Someone, possibly David himself, had deleted it, which meant they knew I'd opened it. My heart thudded unevenly as I stood and made my way to David's study. The room was exactly as always, tidy, faintly smelling of leather and paper. But my eyes were drawn immediately to the bottom left desk drawer. It was locked. I tried the handle again, as if it might magically open the second time. No luck. It wasn't unusual for him to lock things away, tax documents, property deeds, but suddenly, in this moment, the locked drawer felt like a vault of secrets. I backed away, my mind racing. That's when I heard the sound of tires on wet pavement outside. A car slowing. I peeked through the blinds. A dark sedan pulled into our driveway. David wasn't supposed to be home for hours. I barely had time to slip into the kitchen, grab a dish towel, and pretend to be drying plates before the front door opened. "Hey," he said, stepping inside, rainwater dripping from his jacket. He smiled faintly, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thought I'd grab lunch with you." I smiled back, forcing my voice steady. "That's nice. I was just cleaning up." We sat across from each other at the table, the sound of rain ticking against the windows. He asked about my morning work. Nothing unusual, but my mind wasn't really there. All I could see was the number burned into my brain. 4812-356-47, and beneath it, a single, knowing question. If my husband has this much money, why is he hiding it from me? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to David in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my body motionless but my mind running like a machine I couldn't shut off. Every sound, the wind outside, the creak of the house settling, felt like a clock ticking down to something inevitable. David slept soundly, his breathing steady, his arm draped casually across my waist. Once, I would have found it comforting. Tonight, it felt like a weight pinning me in place. I kept seeing the email, the balance, the way it had vanished as though swallowed whole. And every time I thought I'd exhausted the list of possible explanations, another, darker possibility surfaced. The first one hit me around AM. Maybe the money wasn't his at all. Maybe it belonged to someone else, and he was holding it for them. Which meant, whoever that someone was, they trusted him enough to keep millions in his name. Or they didn't trust him at all, and this was leverage. Either way, it wasn't good. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I made coffee, scrambled eggs. I asked about his critical meeting yesterday, a test to see if he'd tell me where he really was. "It went fine," he said, buttering toast. "No details. No follow-up." I decided to push. "What was it about?" "Oh, just some client engineering specs. You wouldn't find it interesting." I forced a smile and let it go, but my mind catalogued every twitch, every pause. Later that afternoon, I opened the file cabinet in the guest room where we kept household documents, bank statements, mortgage paperwork, tax records. I combed through every folder, searching for anything connected to Riverside private banking. Nothing, not even a stray letterhead. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Be careful what you're looking for." I froze. The message had no name, no follow-up, just those words. My hands trembled as I typed back, "Who is this?" No response. By evening, my nerves were frayed. David came home late, claiming a supplier issue had kept him at the office. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened, but there was no sign of the stress he usually wore after long days. If anything, he looked almost satisfied. I watched him eat dinner, wondering if he noticed I was barely touching my food. Afterward, he went into his study, the room with the locked drawer, and closed the door. I heard the faint sound of metal scraping against metal, unlocking something. Then silence. I stood in the hallway, my bare feet cold against the hardwood, straining to catch any other noise. When he finally emerged, He smiled faintly and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I shook my head, claiming I had emails to finish. That night, as he showered, I checked his suit jacket. Nothing in the pockets except his phone, which was locked with a passcode I didn't know. When he came out, towel drying his hair, he caught me glancing at the jacket. "Looking for something?" he asked lightly. I laughed, a hollow sound. "Just checking if you had receipts to file." He nodded slowly, eyes lingering on me a second too long before hanging the jacket in the closet. The paranoia crept in fast after that. Every time his phone buzzed, I wondered who it was. Every time he stepped outside to take a call, I imagined whispered deals in the shadows. Every trip out of town became a possible meeting with people whose names I didn't know. And then came the grocery store. I was standing in the cereal aisle when I felt someone step up beside me. A man in a dark coat, hood pulled low. "You're in danger," he said softly, without looking at me. I turned, startled. "Excuse me?" "Don't trust him," he murmured, still scanning the shelves as though we were strangers. Before I could ask another word, he walked away, disappearing around the corner. I stood frozen, heart pounding, a box of cereal in my hand I didn't even remember picking up. That night, I didn't tell David, because somewhere deep down, I already knew whatever this was. I was in it now, and I couldn't be sure if telling him would make me safer or seal my fate. The next morning, the rain had cleared, but the heaviness in my chest hadn't. I woke before David, lying still and listening to his breathing, wondering how many more mornings I'd wake up beside him before I had my answer and whether I'd even want him here once I did. When he finally stirred, he stretched, kissed my forehead, and said he'd be out all day for work. The words sounded casual, but I caught the faintest pause before all day, like he was measuring how much time to give himself. The second his car backed out of the driveway, I was out of bed. The stud-eyed locked drawer in his study wasn't something I could open without tools, and I didn't want to risk leaving signs I'd tampered with it. But the desk itself had other drawers, ones he rarely touched. I pulled them open one by one. Pens, envelopes, paper clips. A pile of business cards from clients I didn't recognize, most from engineering firms, some from companies with names so vague they could have been anything: Silverpoint Logistics, Northstone Solutions. In the bottom drawer, under a stack of old notepads, I found an unmarked manila envelope. Inside were receipts, but not the kind you get from the grocery store. These were for luxury hotel stays, weekend dates that lined up exactly with the times he'd told me he was at conferences. And the charges were strange. Meals for two, room service orders big enough for four people, spa treatments, all paid in cash. My pulse spiked. The banky decided to try something bold. I called Riverside Private Banking. A pleasant female voice answered, asking for my name and account number. I gave David's, reading it from memory. "Your name, ma'am?" she asked. "Emma Miller," I said, my voice steady. A pause. Then, "I'm sorry, but I can only speak with the account holder." "I'm his wife," I pressed. "This is urgent. I just need to confirm a transaction, I understand." She interrupted, her tone polite but firm. "Unfortunately, our confidentiality policy is absolute. I suggest you speak directly with Mr. Miller." Her voice was calm, but there was something in the way she said absolute that made my skin crawl, like it wasn't just about privacy, but about keeping something buried. The shadow that evening, I was at the mailbox when I saw him. The man from the grocery store. He was standing across the street, hands in his coat pockets, watching the house. When our eyes met, he didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. I stepped back inside quickly, locking the door, my pulse pounding in my ears. I peeked out through the blinds. He was gone. The photo later that night, while David showered, I decided to go through the photo albums stored in our closet. I wasn't looking for evidence exactly, more like reassurance that what we had was real. Instead, I found a photograph tucked inside the back cover of one album. David, sitting at a table in a dimly lit restaurant, leaning close to a man I'd never seen before. The stranger's face was partially obscured by shadow, but his hand rested on a briefcase between them. The photo was grainy, clearly taken from a distance, not the kind of picture you'd frame, but the kind you'd hide. On the back, in messy black ink, were two words: "Trust broken." I put the photo back exactly as I'd found it and closed the album. my hands trembling. Whatever David was involved in, it wasn't just about the money. And now I knew something for sure. I wasn't the only one watching him. The photograph wouldn't leave me alone. David, half lit, leaning toward a man with a briefcase. Trust broken scrawled on the back like a verdict. If someone had taken that picture, someone had been close enough to see what I couldn't. Close enough to know what he was doing. I needed proof. Not numbers on a screen, not a hunch. Something that couldn't be deleted while I blinked. So I set a trap. The test depositi created a new email, a nothing address with a nothing name, and opened a virtual bank account in my own name using a neobank that lets you send tiny ACH transfers with custom memos. I moved $37.42 from my checking to the dummy account and labeled the memo line River 9132, the last 4 digits of the Riverside account I'd memorized. A breadcrumb. Then I took a deeper risk. I scheduled a $1.0 transfer to the Riverside routing number and account David's statement had shown. It would fail. Riverside wouldn't accept random incoming ACH, but the attempt would generate a cannot process alert to the receiving bank. And if their confidentiality is absolute, to someone who monitors anomalies. If David was the only one watching, nothing would happen. If someone else was, something would. I sent the transfer. Then I waited. The alert came minutes later, not to the dummy email, not to my phone, to our front door. 3 hard knocks. Knuckles that didn't care if they bruised. I looked through the peephole and felt my scalp prickle. The man from the grocery store stood on the porch in the afternoon light. No hood this time. Clean jawline. Hair trimmed like rules mattered to him. He wasn't alone. A second man hovered at the sidewalk, pretending to check his phone, pretending not to be back up. I opened the door just enough to show caution, not fear. You should stop, he said softly. Stop what? Fishing. I'm not fishing. I lied. I'm looking for my husband. A ghost of a smile. Don't look for him on wires you don't understand. Who are you? He didn't answer. He studied me like he was mapping out whether I was a problem or a variable. Then he slipped a plain white business card through the crack of the door. No name, no company, just a number written in blue ink and 2 letters in the corner like initials, BK. If you want to stay alive, he said, don't move money, don't copy files, and don't confront him alone. Why? Because there are at least 3 sides here, he said, and none of them forgive. He stepped back. The man on the sidewalk looked up, nodded. They left together and hurried, like they had time, like they owned it. The locked drawer that night. I couldn't pretend anymore. After David fell asleep, I slipped out of bed, padded to the study, and sat on the floor with a bobby pin and a tension wrench I'd watched a locksmith use on YouTube. My hands shook. The lock's guts whispered in the dark, tiny clicks, stubborn pins. At the 5th try, the core turned a fraction, then all the way. The drawer slid open. Inside, a black leather portfolio, a burner phone wrapped with a rubber band, and a small, brushed steel key on a fob stamped with a number, box 317. Safety deposit. My throat went dry. I opened the portfolio first. Inside were printed statements, not Riverside, but a local bank. The balances were low, almost insultingly ordinary. Tucked into the back sleeve, though, was a folded, well-used ledger page handwritten columns with dates and amounts that matched none of the printed statements. No bank names, just initials. SP 15,000, NS 10,000, RM 45,000 neat. Routine entries, like someone paying premiums. Keep current. I heard in my head, though I didn't know why. The burner phone was off. I didn't power it yet. The key was cold in my palm. 317. I closed the drawer, restored the lock, memorized the line of the wood. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it except the key. I slid it into the pocket of my robe and told myself I'd return it before morning. I didn't. Box 317 the next day. While David was out, I drove to the downtown branch stamped on the fob. I wore a ball cap and sunglasses like a woman playing at secrecy, which felt ridiculous until it didn't. Box number? The clerk asked. 317, I said. I kept my voice lifeless, like I'd done this 100 times. She slid paperwork toward me. I froze. Signature card. Authorized users. I think it's already on file, I said, as if I were bored. I'm just here to check something quickly. My husband asked me to grab a document, Name? Emma Miller. She scanned. We have a David Miller listed. My husband. I'm sorry, ma'am. Only authorized signers may access. I felt the flush creep up my neck. Of course. I slid the card back, smiled, and left, pulse knocking in my throat. If I couldn't go through the front, there was a side entrance. The fact that I was entertaining side entrances told me how fast my life had changed. I sat in my car under a maple tree, staring at the bank's brick face, and dialed the number on the anonymous card. BK? He answered on the second ring. I need advice, I said. Advice is a luxury, he replied. You need rules. Fine. Rule me. Rule 1. Don't access boxes you can't explain touching. Cameras exist. Logs exist. If you set off an alarm you can't disarm, you'll teach the wrong people your name. Rule 2? I asked, because my voice sounded steadier if I kept it moving. Don't take anything you can't put back. Curiosity leaves fingerprints. Rule 3. If you're about to move, make sure you're not being moved. The line went quiet. He let the words settle. You're not law enforcement? I asked. No, then who? A man with fewer illusions than you, he said. Text me when you do something reckless. I'll tell you how reckless it was. Why are you helping me? I'm helping him, he said. David? Silence. Then, walk away, Emma. I can't. That's what he said, he murmured. He ended the call. The burner back home. I locked the bathroom door, turned on the shower to drown sound, and powered the burner phone. It woke with a stubborn beep and an empty home screen. One app stood out, a secure messenger with a generic lock icon. I opened it. A single thread. No names. Just timestamps and short, clipped exchanges. 8 days ago. Confirm drop. This phone. 3 transfers completed. Waiting on our other. R is volatile. Keep him calm. This. Wants cash. Won't take wires anymore. Other. Cash is traceable. Use SP route. Keep premiums current. There it was again. Premiums. The ledger. I scrolled. 4 days ago. Wife. This. Asleep. Other. Keep it that way. The world tilted. I gripped the sink. A drop of water from the shower head pattered onto the tile with the insistence of a metronome. Then a new message arrived while I watched. Other. We see her. Slow her down. Heat flared up my spine. My fingers trembled above the screen. I typed, erased, typed again. This. I have it under control. I hit send. Then turned the phone off so fast it felt like I was shoving something dangerous back into a box. If they believed that this was David, I'd bought myself. What? An hour? A day? Or I'd just lit a fuse I couldn't see. The confrontation that was, he told myself I'd confront him. Tonight. Demand answers. Put the phone on the table, the ledger, the key. When he came home, though, he was gentle. Too gentle. He brought takeout from my favorite place, the one with the basil chicken that tastes like summer. He asked about my day, offered to do the dishes, rubbed the tension from my shoulders while I stared at a point on the wall and tried to remember how to breathe. Are you okay? He asked softly. It could have been the moment. The knife that cut truth free. I'm tired, I said. He kissed my hair. Sleep early. When he turned away, I saw it. A thin, chalky smear on his cuff. Bank vault dust looks like that, so does powdered latex from money straps. I didn't ask. Because the man in the grocery aisle had told me not to. Because the burner text had told me I was being seen. Because there were at least 3 sides here. And I didn't know which one he belonged to. Or whether I still did. The VCD woke at 11 a.m. to the sensation of being watched. The house was quiet, David asleep. But the feeling didn't leave. I padded into the hall. A shadow moved past the frosted glass of our front door, a smear of darker within dark. I stepped closer. The knob turned, then stopped. A test. The door held. Then 3 light taps. Almost polite. I didn't open it. I waited. My breath fogged the glass faintly from the inside. And for a heartbeat the fog made a face out of randomness, eyes, mouth, nothing human. I stepped back, heart loud. After a full minute, I looked again. The porch was empty. I opened the door a crack. An envelope lay on the mat unmarked. Inside, a photocopy of the Riverside account page I'd seen and a second page I hadn't. outgoing cash withdrawal slips stamped by a currency exchange that wasn't a bank at all. 3 of them. The most recent dated yesterday. On the bottom, in the same blocky handwriting as trust broken, a line, "You're not the only one who can read." Lines on a map. He spread everything across the bedroom floor while David snored lightly in the next room. The ledger initials aligned with the exchange stamps. SP, NS, RM. I searched them, whispering the names into my phone like a prayer. SP Silverpoint Logistics, NS Northstone Solutions, RM Rivermile Import or Export. Shells. All of them shells. The premiums weren't insurance. They were hush payments. Routine. Scheduled. To whom? I thought of the photo of David with the man and the briefcase. Of the burner chat. R is volatile. Keep him calm. R. Rivermile? Or a person. R could be anyone. Could be more than one. My phone buzzed. A text from BK. You opened the box. I stared at the screen. I hadn't. But he didn't need me to argue semantics. I couldn't. I wrote back. Not authorized. Good. Keep it that way. Who are you? I asked again. Long pause. Then, the one who took the photo you found. My blood iced. Trust broken. Why help me? Because he helped me once. David? Don't make me say it again. Walk away. Did he steal the money? I typed, fingers tight. No. BK replied. He kept it moving. For who? For people who pay in favors. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling until patterns appeared in the paint that weren't there. What if David wasn't the architect, just a courier? What if the money wasn't his sin, just his sentence? The choice before the choice be morning, the world had the audacity to be ordinary again. Coffee. Sun on the kitchen tile. David in a fresh shirt. Eyes bright like nothing had cracked. Breakfast? He asked. I'm not hungry. He studied me. You've been off. Grief is strange, I said, and the lie startled me. I was grieving, just not what he thought. Take a walk later, he said gently. Fresh air helps. He kissed my cheek and left. I listened to the car fade, then went to the study, opened the locked drawer, set the key where it had been, put the portfolio back, pressed the burner into its exact indentation in the felt, closed the drawer, turned the lock, and placed my palms flat on the desk to still their shaking. I could confront him. I could run. I could call the police and hand them a puzzle with 3 corners and no picture. Or I could do the thing I'd avoided since this began. Decide who I believed David was. The man who smiled and brought basil chicken. The man with chalk on his cuff and a wife, checking on a secure chat. The man with a key to a box I couldn't open. 3 sides. Maybe he belonged to all of them. I texted BK one more time. If I confront him tonight, do I live? His reply came fast. Flip a coin. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I typed, what would you do? A full minute. 2. I'd make him choose first, he wrote. Then I'd decide what story to tell about the choice. I locked my phone, breathed once, twice, 3 times, and went to the kitchen to wait for a night that felt like it might never come. The table was set. The envelope from the porch sat in the center, weighted by a salt shaker as if it might blow away. I moved it, replaced it with a pen. When the door opened and David stepped in with that careful, tender smile, I knew I wasn't ready to lose him and I wasn't ready to keep him, and both truths could be true at once. Hey, he said, shrugging off his coat. Hey, we need to talk, we said in the same breath. We stood there, 2 people holding different maps of the same city, neither of us sure which roads were closed. I found something, he said. So did I. I answered. We both sat. He reached into his pocket and placed the burner phone on the table between us. I matched him and placed a photograph beside it. Trust broken stared up like a third witness. We looked at each other across the mess we'd made of our life. Who are you working for? I asked. Who do you think? He said. In the silence that followed, the house settled, the light shifted, and for the first time since I saw that balance $4,812,356.47, I felt the story tilt toward an answer I might not survive knowing. The phone and the photograph sat between us like 2 versions of the same story. David didn't touch either. He watched me, measuring the part of me that was his and the part that no longer was. I'm going to ask questions, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. If you lie, I'll know. He nodded once, then asked, "Who is R?" A pause then. "Depends which day. Sometimes Rivermile Imports front, sometimes a man named Rylan. Both volatile." "Who is BK?" His jaw tightened. "Someone who used to run with them. Someone I got out once." "I met him," I said. "He told me to walk away. That sounds like him." "The money," I said. 4.8 million. "Is it yours?" No, the word was clean, unadorned. It fell into the room and didn't crack. "Then whose?" "Everyone's," he said softly. "That's the point." I thought of the diagram I didn't have, the names I didn't know, the ledger labeled like insurance. "You're laundering." "I'm moving," he said. "Laundering is washing. This is routing." "For who?" "People who pay with things that aren't always money." "Like what?" "Permits, judges, protection." He studied my face as if looking for a stop sign. "Favors that become facts." I wanted to stand, to throw the burner through a window, to scream that the man who slept beside me didn't know what a marriage was. Instead, I asked, quietly, "Why you?" "Because I'm forgettable," he said with a self-loathing smile. "Engineers are good couriers. We understand systems. We don't ask why the bridge holds, just whether it will." "You're not forgettable," I said. "You didn't see it." I looked down at the phone. "Do they know I have this?" "They know you have something." He tapped the table once. "A small, nervous code. They don't know what. And the box. Don't open it." I couldn't. "Good," he said, with a relief that almost undid me. "If you leave it shut, you're still an amateur. Amateurs can be warned. Professionals are liabilities." I swallowed. "The ledger. The initials. SP, NSRM. Cover companies," he said. "Spines holding up meat you're not supposed to name. The payments keep the spine from snapping. Premiums." He blinked. "You saw that word on your phone." "Not my phone," he corrected. "Our phone. It's in both our names now." I didn't know whether to laugh or flinch. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" I asked. He reached for the photo instead of me and turned it over, reading "Trust broken" like an epitaph. "I tried," he said. "I brought Chinese. I brought basil chicken. I slept and woke and thought, today." Then the day ended. And I didn't. "Because you were protecting me." "Because I was hiding from what protecting you would cost," he said. And there it was, the one true thing I recognized. Not the network, not the money, the cowardice that looks like care. "Who took this?" I asked. "BK," he said. Then, after a beat, he wanted proof I wasn't committed, that I still had a line in me I wouldn't cross. He gave it to me like a threat. I kept it like a promise. His hand hovered over the photograph, then withdrew. The man in the grain sat frozen across a table from my husband, a briefcase between them like a child they didn't deserve. "What do they want from me?" I asked. "Specifically, to stop asking questions," he said. "To stop acting like a witness. To be a wife." "Be careful how you say that," I murmured. "I meant the legal meaning," he said quickly. "Spousal privilege. If you stay in this marriage, a court can't turn you into a blade. And if I leave, then you're a blade," he said. "And blades get used." We sat with it. The shape of a life is sometimes just the shape of a trap. "Tell me the worst thing you've done," I said. He didn't answer at first. When he did, he looked at the door, the window, the places sound could leave. "I stabilized a week that should have collapsed," he said. "A man owed money to the wrong tier. I moved funds that weren't mine to quiet a debt that wasn't his alone. And a woman, the kind who keeps books in a head no one can subpoena, went missing a month later. They said she ran. Maybe she did. And the best thing, I got a kid out," he said, voice loosening for the first time. 19. Smart. Too brave in a room that penalizes that. I shifted his name out of a system and made it look like he never joined. He sells scooters somewhere warm. I think about him when I'm trying to forgive myself. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the room hadn't changed and everything had. "What do I do?" I asked. "I can't tell you," he said. "If I do, I'm still controlling you." "Then tell me what you will do." "I'll give you the map," he said. "All of it. The boxes, the accounts, the names I've written down and the names I only say in my head. And then I'll leave." "Leave," I repeated. "To where?" "Somewhere with fewer roads. You think running makes you smaller on their map. I think staying makes you target-shaped," he said. "For both of us." "BK told me there are 3 sides," I said. "Them?" Lol. And whatever he is. He smiled without humor. There are at least 5. You just haven't learned the other 2 names. And me? I asked. Which side am I? Right now? He exhaled. Your gravity. He stood, went to the study, returned with the leather portfolio, the one I had touched with hands I hoped hadn't left a story behind. He set it on the table and slid out a second, thinner folder from inside the back cover. Paper rustled like dry leaves. I didn't put this in the drawer, he said. I kept it in my bag. I wanted some part of it within reach in case I ever had to run while pretending to be going to lunch. What is it? Keys, he said. He opened the folder. Not metal, not fobs, letters, numbers, protocols, handwritten fail-safes. If R calls, stall with RM. If NS texts, reply with shipment delayed. If SP asks for cash, never say no, say tomorrow and send 2,000 now. Why show me this? I asked. Because whatever happens next, it's not fair to leave you in a house with a bomb you can't see. I let out a breath I didn't know I had been storing. So that's what this is, a house with a bomb, he said softly. And we've been eating at the table on top of it. The phone between us buzzed. The secure app bannered a new message on the black screen. Even while powered down, some systems insist on being louder than you want. Other. Move. Box 317. Now. We stared at the ugly little rectangle like it had spoken aloud. You're not going, I said. If I don't, someone else will, he replied. And they will make a mess I can't clean. Then what? Let me be seen going, he said. And you be unseen. I don't like that sentence. Neither do I. He pocketed the burner, stood, and waited for me to tell him to stop. When I didn't, he kissed my forehead like a ritual and walked to the door. David, I said. He turned. Pick a side, I said, before someone picks it for you. He nodded once and vanished into an afternoon that felt like a mouth closing. He didn't text for 53 minutes. Those minutes were wide and endless. I paced the length of the house and memorized every sound the fridge could make. At minute 54, I received 2 messages, not from him. From BK, blue sedan on Elm. Don't go home if you leave. If he exits alone, drive past him. Don't stop. If he doesn't, call the reporter, the one I hadn't told him about. My thumb hovered. I grabbed the portfolio, the thin folder, the photograph, slid them into a canvas tote. Then I did something I can't justify even now. I took the safety deposit key, just in case truth turned into a door that would only open if I touched it. I locked the house and went out the back. The air smelled like wet pavement and a storm the sky had decided to postpone. I moved through neighbors' yards like a woman testing whether fences are real. At the 3rd street over, I got into my car and drove toward downtown, heart high in my throat. Traffic turned slow near the bank like the city knew and was bracing. I circled the block once, twice. On the 3rd lap, he emerged, David, alone, head down, nothing in his hands. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. For a second, he raised his face to the light and saw me. He shook his head, no, a quick, urgent flick. Behind him, a man in a suit who fit no memory, and every warning stepped into the frame of the glass doors. I drove past without stopping. My phone buzzed. BK? Good. Go where? I typed, because without a destination, fear just mills around and gets bigger. Somewhere public, somewhere loud. Sit with your back to a wall. I parked at a cafe with picture windows and too many plants. I ordered tea I didn't want and sat where he said. I took out the thin folder and didn't open it. I took out the photograph and turned it face down. The reporter texted, then, are you ready to go on record? Like a clock I'd wound days ago and now wanted to throw out a window. Almost, I wrote. If I do, I lose my marriage. She replied, if you don't, you might lose your life. I looked up. Outside, the city kept doing what cities do, being itself regardless. 2 boys hip-checked each other past a bus stop. A woman carried a cake like it was a sleeping child. A man laughed into a phone with his whole spine. The bell over the caf door tinkled. I glanced up, ready to see Benton, Crow, Whitaker, Law, or everyone. It was David. No escort. No shadow behind him. He was breathing like he'd outrun an animal and didn't know if it still followed. He slid into the seat across from me, eyes bright with the adrenaline of almost. Did you take anything? I asked. No. Did they see you? Yes. I waited. I moved nothing, he said. I told them the teller refused access without you, and then I left. They don't like uncertainty. They'll check logs, they'll check cameras, and they'll argue about whether you were ever authorized. That buys us hours. Hours to do what? He looked at the tote near my feet, understanding. To choose. I set my palms flat on the table to keep them from shaking. I called a reporter. He didn't flinch. I figured. I didn't give names. You will. I might. He glanced at the window, the street, the sky, like he was measuring which way weather comes from. I can disappear, he said. I have cash. I have favors. If I vanish, you're less interesting. You become grief and an empty bank account and a story without an ending. They like those. What about you? I become what I made, he said. A rumor with legs and the money. The Fouriite, he shrugged. It will flow around the obstacle. It always does. So this was pointless, I said, and hated how small I sounded. He leaned in. No, now you know what the floor is made of. We sat with that, a sentence that felt like a confession of love from the wrong book. I took the key from my pocket and set it between us. Box 317. He didn't touch it. If you open it, he said, you become me. If you don't, you can still become yourself. And if I call the reporter right now, then you become a fourth side, he said. And the map redraws. Outside, a siren wailed and faded like someone else's problem moving past. He watched my face like a student cramming for an exam with only one question. Do you love me? I asked. His answer was immediate. Yes. Do you deserve me? No, I picked up the key. He exhaled, something in him collapsing and standing at the same time. Whatever you choose, he said, choose it for the life you can live with at 3 in the morning. I looked at the key, at the phone, at the photograph in my bag that said trust broken, as if that were the whole story and not just the first chapter. The reporter texted again, we can protect sources. We can move carefully, but we have to move. BK texted a beat after. If you open the box, don't read everything at once. The mind breaks slower in pieces. David watched me decide. I set the key on the table. Then I slid it back to the middle. Then I set my phone next to it. For a long breath, all 3 objects touched a triangle pointing at a version of me I hadn't met yet. Okay, I said. He waited. I'm going to. I began, and stopped, because some choices get their power from being spoken, and some keep it by staying inside your ribs where no one can subpoena them. I stood. He stood. We didn't touch. Whatever you do, he said, don't do it alone. I left the cafe into a daylight that felt like it could turn to night in one step. I walked until the city changed neighborhoods and back again. When I finally reached a corner with good light and a clear sight line, I pulled out my phone and typed a message to the reporter, then another to BK, then another to a number I hadn't used in years and wasn't sure would still be a person. A bus passed. A child laughed. A cloud moved. Somewhere behind me, a sedan idled. In my pocket, the key warmed to my palm. I hit send on one of the messages. Not the others. Not yet. Because there are endings you choose and endings you earn. And sometimes the only way to survive the difference is to let the world wonder which one you picked. I crossed the street without looking back.